Hello and welcome to the third lesson of the University of Hypnotism training. At the completion of this training, you will earn 20 contact hours for continuing education credits from the American College of Hypnotherapy. As mentioned in the previous video training, you are encouraged to use the Hypnosis Workshop Workbook. And you will notice that there's information in here that complements this lesson. You are also encouraged to consider taping and submitting video practice sessions of you doing hypnosis, as well as submit any sort of questions or comments that you want answered that you can't find an answer within the training here. We are going to start first by going over each of the first steps in the last video in much more detail, starting with the acts of compliance. As mentioned earlier, the intake and pre-talk does not have to be long. My mentor, Jeff Stevens, said that all he really needs to know about a client is what they want to accomplish with hypnosis. You'll notice that when I do intake, it does take a little more detail at least. What I want to accomplish when I'm doing an intake or a pre-talk is, first of all, I need to know the negative problem they want to get rid of and the positive outcome they want instead. That's the first thing. The second thing is I want to build a positive expectation, a sense of anticipation for doing the hypnosis. And lastly, I want to tell them how to respond to the hypnosis instructions. The acts of compliance is actually a set of 3 things that you do to prepare the hypnosis subject for the session. Think of the acts of compliance as a sandwich. On the top and the bottom are directives, commands, things that you tell them to do. In the middle of the sandwich are what is called the initial instructions. Now, if the hypnotist and the subject are facing each other, the hypnotist might say something like, sit up straight, move your chair closer, feet flat on the floor. If standing, the hypnotist might say, stand right over here, move to the left, turn this way. It really doesn't matter what the specific directions are. What matters is that they are delivered with an expectation and a tonality that says the hypnotist expects the subject to follow them. It should not be rude or pushy, just a very direct command statement. This is probably a really good time to talk about the command tonality. When giving an instruction, it is best to have the tonality match the intention. An instruction is something that is expected to be followed. So this typically requires what's called a command tonality. This is achieved by having the tone go down at the end of the sentence. For example, if the tonality went up, it would sound something like, move to the left, and there it sounds like a question. But the example of a downward tonality sounds much different. For example, it would sound like, move to the left. It does not have to be pushy, you do not have to yell, you do not have to be bossy. It is simply done with that downward tonality at the end of the sentence. And it is a good idea to begin practicing using the command tonality consciously, intentionally, and to use it especially during your hypnosis sessions. With the first act of compliance given, you then give the initial instructions. And it sounds something like this. All you have to do is follow my instructions. Don't try to make anything happen. What's going to happen, just let it happen. It's going to be great. And it should be a good idea. Sometimes I like to nod my head at the end so that they start to unconsciously nod their head in agreement. These instructions have a presupposition to them that's actually very important. I'll go over it. The first part, all you have to do is follow my instructions. The presupposition is this is simple. You don't have to work at it. I'll tell you exactly what to do. The next part, don't try to make anything happen. Whatever's going to happen, just let it happen. That implies they don't have to work at it. That something is in fact going to happen and they don't have to do anything about it. And lastly, it will be great. And there you're building that positive expectation. Once these instructions are given, you follow up with another act of compliance, sort of completing the sandwich. Something like move closer, feet flat on the floor, relax your shoulders. Of course, these are set in the command tonality. Then you go on to the next step. The only thing that you have to do, just follow my instructions. Don't try to make anything happen. It's going to happen, it's going to happen, and it's going to be awesome. All right?
Okay.
Okay. So, get comfortable.
Okay.
Settle in. Very good.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right. The eye engagement. It is important not to underestimate the power of this one very simple step. After giving the initial instructions and acts of compliance, the hypnotist just pauses, looks right into the eyes of the subject, and waits silently. This should not be an uncomfortable glare or something akin to a stare down. As the hypnotist, you are waiting for a moment in which the subject starts to anticipate what you're going to say next. The anticipation should build, and for that reason, the time you spend in the eye engagement may seem longer than usual. Usually 10 seconds of silence is more than enough. If that feels uncomfortable looking at someone for that long, practice getting used to it. Remember, you are the one who is in control of the situation. With some experience, you'll get the feeling, the understanding, when a subject is ready to follow your instructions. Simply keep in mind that you're observing to see the subject become ready, really ready to hear what you're going to tell them next. Occasionally, you may get a subject who thinks you're going to try and stare them down. In that case, you can break that with a very simple sort of confusing statement. You simply say, excellent, very good, and then you proceed with the next step. The only thing that you have to do, just follow my instructions. Don't try to make anything happen. It's going to happen, it's going to happen, and it's going to be awesome. All right?
Okay.
Okay. So, get comfortable.
Okay.
Settle in. Very good.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right. Very good. Take a really slow, deep breath. Step 3, take a slow, deep breath. Just like it sounds, this step requires you tell the subject to take a slow, deep breath. This in itself acts as an act of compliance. You can see the subject follow your instructions by taking a slow, deep breath. Doing this also has an effect on the physiology of the hypnosis subject. If you haven't done so already, go ahead. Take a slow, deep breath. Notice how you feel now, having taken that slow, deep breath. Typically, it slows all the mental processes. The blood pressure goes down, the heart rate lowers, It narrows the attention, it calms the mind, and creates a state that makes one feel generally relaxed, and more importantly, it feels good. This is what you want your hypnosis subjects to be feeling.